Let's do the rear removal and installation on 09 through 2017. Actually, they haven't even changed it still. Milwaukee 8 changed the fronts, but the rears are still the same. So even through today, 21, 09 through 21, rear's the same. Here's what you got on your bike. So we did a lot to get to here. We didn't just, take a stock mount and make a mold and pour urethane the same way. Here's your stock mount. And if you see, it actually just bolts to this washer. You see here? In the back of it. So you're bolting down onto that washer through this, okay? Goes on there. Spacer. Whereas our bushing, our mount, goes all the way through the shaft. Or the shaft goes all the way through the bushing, all right? It's all one piece, CNC, piece of billet round stock. And then we've got 2 compounds. There's a really hard collar that goes into the floorboard of the bike. And then we have a vibration damping compound that's in between the aluminum sleeve and the hard collar. And then you can see we've slotted and banded the aluminum too, so that the urethane actually pours through, and then we get a mechanical lock on the urethane also, not just relying on it being bonded to the aluminum. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's put it in. So what you got is you got this little, I know it confuses a lot of people. It did me for a while. It still does sometimes. But that's just it's got no threads. It's just a spacer that's holding the mount on. See, it goes down inside. All right. And this little bolt here is actually what holds all that together. The end of the rod is threaded, and this screws into the end of the bolt. And it's usually, and it's Loctite from the factory. There's Annabelle walking around there. And so this is not what, it holds the mount on, but it's not, come here, Anna, come here, come on, say hi, say hi. This is Annabelle. We have a few acres. She's in control of it. She wants to make sure everything's done okay, but she's very sweet, and she's always smiling. Aren't you? You're really cute. Okay, let's talk to this. All right. So, sorry about that. So, yeah, this is just a spacer. So this is what you want to get out. This is this bolt. And this, I don't use an impact a lot, but this is one of the places that I'll get my impact out. And you want to just hit the right side. We usually leave the weight on the rear wheel. We just got the frame set up level, but the weight's on the wheel. The trend jack's not under there. So we got tension on the swing arm, so that maybe kind of hold it in. You really need to get this nut off of this side. So let's see what we can do here. See how it... Oh yeah, see? Everybody's with us today so far. Yeah, better be careful, huh? Alright, so you're on the right side. You got that out. You got your bolt out. Alright? So get your bolt out, and you want to pull that, work that sleeve out. And the rest we're going to do on the other side. I'm going to leave the rear wheel on. We'll do from the other side. Let me move you around there. We'll get right to that. Alright, we're over to the left side. We've got this all set up. You actually don't need the nut off on the left side, but it's all set up. We may as well try to get off now. Let's save putting it in a vise later. Yeah, so see, we're lucky the shaft didn't spin, and we got that off of there. Now we need to get the passenger floorboard bracket off to this side. Well, we got the impact, we might as well. These could be blue Loctite from the factory, so it could be a little difficult. loosen the axle nut on the right side. And you don't even have to take the clip off. You just need to loosen the axle nut. And we can go ahead and let the tension off the belt. Wrench for that. Belt tension's loose. Now we're going to need to get the rear wheel off the lift there a little bit. So I'm going to go underneath the frame further back here. Weight off the rear wheel. Make sure everything's stable. There we go. Get this out of the way. We're done with that. And what we want to do is walk the belt off the pulley. Walk it off towards the outside. Got that. Now we can pull the swing arm back far enough to get that get the right side mount out of there. Okay. So while I was gone, I went ahead and swapped out the rear small frame jack with the scissor jack that's now under the transmission and supporting the tranny. I jacked it up just a little bit so now you can see the mounts come out. That's a good thing. And I got the swing arm loose from there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this shaft out now so we can get that right side out. Just hang on for a second. So using a brass drift or a wood dowel, I'm going to tap the shaft out the left side from the right side. Okay, hang on just a second. You'll see it. get some grip on it. Go ahead and get that all the way out. Get that apart. Okay, get yourself something to use for a little chalk. Actually, a rubber sanding block works really well, but I can't seem to find one right now. It's a little chunk of wood here. And then you can go to the back of the bike. It's by yourself. If you're you got somebody helping you, it's kind of easier. They can just hold it back for you. But go ahead and pull that swing arm back and use your chalk. And that'll get it far enough back so that you can pull this right side mount out. Okay? How you doing, Molly? Come here. Come here. Oh, what a good girl. Come here, sweetie. Come here. Come here. Molly's here. If you see some of the earlier videos, there's Annabelle stinking in there. Molly's 13. She's a good girl, too. They're really nice to have around. All right. Back enough of that. Let's get back to the motorcycle. Okay, we lifted that right side mount up out of there. The swing arm's back far enough. They're kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky to get it out. I bring it out through this side. All right. So we're going to clean it up in here a little bit. And then we'll work on getting the new right side mount in and put it back together. All right. Probably the hardest part of the whole job, including the fronts, is to get this all back in and lined up. I got the right side mount back in, the new mount back in the pocket on the other side, and I've made sure that the notch, that the pin is in the notch, all right, on that side over there. And that's pressed firmly in. Now you need to be sure there's one of these on both sides of the swing arm from the outside. This has got to drop between that bushing, the new bushing, and the transmission. This is actually going to slip, be against the transmission boss. And you got to make sure they're not cocked up a little bit, like at an angle. They need to both be straight so that they'll drop down in. There's a hat bushing on the inside next to the tranny boss. Excuse me. There's a hat bushing on the inside next to the tranny boss. Those you need to make sure are straight up and down so that when I bring the swing arm back up, it'll drop in over those. I'll struggle with this for a minute. Got to get this up and over. So that's a pain. And like I said, it's probably the hardest part. You got to make sure those two hat bushings inside the swing arm are parallel so that they drop over the transmission box. Okay? And you can, whatever you can figure out, something long that you can reach from this side and the other side to kind of push the bottom over. All right? And then if they're like cocked in a little, then try to push them over. And then, like I said, you'll get it to drop in. And I've got the mount in over there, and it's in the bushing, and I've got the sleeve on that side. I made sure that, remember, make sure this didn't fall out, or if you took it out, put it back. All right? And you can get up in there. It's looking pretty good. This is real tricky because you have to go over all these steps. You have to get this through, and then this has to go through that bushing, and then it has to get up onto the sleeve of our mount. All right, so just work with it for a while. Yeah, you'll get it. Probably an easier job with two people, I'm sure it is. But you can get it. It'll go. A lot of times you can use a wooden block or a hammer handle. You can see it. Yeah, probably done that more than once. All right. So you're gonna get to there. Well, see if we can get past that little step too. Some decent alignment. All right, I'm going to work with that for just a minute. All right. So we got new nuts and new washers. Don't want to make sure that went in on the other side. If you got your shaft in, that shoulder sits on the inside of the shoulder on this spacer, and you just want to be sure. So that shoulder should be just a little behind the face of the swing arm. And I'll move in flush. Those should stick out just a little bit. That's what the swing arm should bear on. So it moves freely, okay? So it's not bound up. I'm going to go ahead and blue Loctite the other side and screw this nut down flush with the other end. Alright, so right side, clean the threads. Blue Loctite. Screwed the nut down just almost flush. It's actually maybe a thread, not even a thread, of the nut sticking out. I'll show you why. I'm going to go ahead and get this left side mount on. Got our spacer in there. Got a new washer. And our nut. I'm not going to put the Loctite on yet. We'll go with that. Alright, and then the floorboard bracket. Get the notch. Get the pin and the notch on the bushing, or the mount, sorry. There you go. And you can line up those two holes. You can use this jack if they're not. And we want to Loctite those. Might as well draw them up kind of even. I need to pull one side up. off of the, I'm going to torque this side. Occasionally the mount will want to spin off of the pin. So I just got a little wooden wedge that I put in between the flat side of the mount and the primary, and that'll keep it from turning. Okay? And I'm going to put a breaker bar with a 9/16 12 point on the other side and lock that in place. And then I'm going to torque this side. And we're going to torque to 40 foot-pounds. Don't want to go too far over that. 40 is what you want to torque it to. If you get up to about 60, you know I showed you how that bushing's aluminum with the slots in it. Then you could crack it. So I'll get you some blue Loctite on this side. And go ahead and run that down. Like I said, I got my breaker bar. It'll lock over on something. You can find a exhaust clamp, the floorboard bracket, something. And there you go. To see it just a hair over. There's a lot of variance in the swing arm and how far the bearings are pressed in. I know there's a stop collar, but it's not always the same. So you'll have a difference. Sometimes these will end up perfectly flush. Sometimes they'll end up with just a thread of the nut showing. A thread of the nut showing on there. Okay, but it's all good. It works fine. Sometimes it'll end up perfectly flush. We can only account for so much. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to walk the belt back on the pulley. I'll readjust the belt tension and torque the nut on the axle. All right, and we'll go for a test ride. But yeah, you got it. That went really well. That's not too bad. So here's our rear mount install. Little block to hold that in place. See, that held that perfect while you torqued that. Kept it from turning. All right, so we've got the front videos done. That's on the website. The install for the fronts. The rears are done. All right. If you need something, you got a question, give us a call. There are some alignment stuff you can do with this bike. I know they removed the ability to do the alignment the same as the 08 and earlier, but there's some stuff we've learned about them. The biggest thing is that solid dog bone from the front cylinder to the frame. They have it disconnected throughout the whole install. If the bolt goes back in, you're okay, but if not, just get you an adjustable one. Like I said, on the front install, March, I think, has a nice stainless steel one. It's less than the stock Harley, but you can order a 2008 adjustable off whatever your bike is, Street Glide, Ultra, they're all the same. And then adjust it to fit, all right? We've seen that more than anything affecting the handling of the bike, and actually putting a bind on the mounts occasionally to where it was creating some issues that way too. But there are some tricks. One of the big things on the right side on this concentric washer here, there's so much, you know, it's got that flat, there's a flat on the axle, there's a flat on the washer. as you adjust this side, it's supposed to adjust the other side equally. It doesn't all the time. And what we found is when we'll torque the axle nut, you could actually, if you put a laser on the rear rotor that shoots on the floor or lift, you can actually watch it pull off as you tighten the axle down. So just to avoid that happening, if you just can see it happening and stop it, it's not that hard to stop. You can keep it from doing it. You can have somebody help you hold the wheel while you torque it. But you can keep it from doing that. And just that alone can help with the alignment. It can change the alignment, all right? And if you need to align it, it'll give you a little bit of room. You can do some alignment with that washer. There's some other stuff we know too. If you're having an issue, give us a call. We're always here. We're happy to talk about it, whether you got our parts or not, all right? You guys have a good day. Thanks.